Well, hey there. You've stumbled upon the intersection of internet quandaries and psychological insight. Welcome to Veritas Views on AITA, where the quirks of the internet meet the expertise of Veritas Psychology Partners.
Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Michael McBride, and I'm joined by our dynamic duo of psychologists.
I'm Dr. Gayle MacBride. I am a psychologist and therapist of 20 years and really glad to be joined today by my more senior business partner and fellow therapist, Dr. Daniel Kessler.
And I'm a psychologist for 30 years. So you're right. I am your more senior partner here in this podcast. So, Michael, what do you have this week for us that will hopefully help us sound really terrific?
Well, you're joined by a host with 0 years practicing psychology. So, between us, we have whatever the total of your years together are.
50.
And none
50
contributed.
0 is still 50.
Pity.
For any of the newbies out
years.
there, if you don't know what Am I the Asshole is, I've gone on the internet and I found somebody who has posted a scenario and they've asked the internet to weigh in. Who's the asshole here? When there's been identifiable information, I've cleaned that up a bit just to kind of make it a bit more discreet. And if you're new, stick around through the credits. We'll always have some kind of bonus conversation. Not sure what that will be, but neither Dan nor Gail know what I'm about to throw their way. So this is what we got. The topic is, am I the asshole for sending my sister flowers anonymously and making her husband upset?
Probably.
Yeah. Ms.
Okay.
I don't think you should judge a book by its cover, McBride. Jumping in there
Yes,
right off
ring,
the
ring,
bat
hello.
with judging its book by its
Pot your
cover.
black. That is one of my favorite Friends lines. Ring, ring, pot your black.
Wow. But this one, I gotta say, right off the bat, it don't sound good.
Well,
Because,
I have to imagine it was an unintentional outcome. I'm guessing that something far less sinister was going on, but we should probably hear the facts of the case before making them up.
We should, but gee whiz, think for a moment before you do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Michael, give us the fact pattern so that we can decide whether or not our book judging cover thing is spot on.
Whether it's justified or not? Okay, let's see. So you have late 30s in this case. The poster is male, and he says, I've always been close to my sister. She's 35. We talk regularly, and during one such conversation, she told me she's been feeling really depressed and overwhelmed lately. As we were talking, I could tell she was holding back tears, so I decided to do something nice for her. I contacted a local florist I know and put in an order for some flowers. I had them delivered to my sister's place of employment with a note simply reading, thinking of you. A few hours later, the florist called me back and said a man had been calling them nonstop and demanding them tell him who sent his wife flowers. They tried to explain that it was against their policy to reveal such information, but the man wouldn't take no for an answer. Apparently became aggressive and threatening over the phone. The shop called me and asked my permission to reveal the name to the sender, which of course I said yes immediately. The man being my brother-in-law. Turns out my sister had called her husband and thanked him for the flowers. He said he hadn't sent any flowers and accused her of having an affair. He believed her affair partner had sent them to her, which is why he was calling the florist like a lunatic, demanding names. Now my sister is even more depressed than ever, and she's fighting with my brother-in-law ever since. My friends think I should have included my name on the card. Had I done that, they say this blow-up would have never happened. I didn't do it intentionally. It just didn't occur to me when they asked what I wanted on the card. So, am I the asshole for sending anonymous flowers?
Wow. There are just points that got missed all along the way here. I'm disappointed that the florist didn't prompt the guy. Is there a signature, a name you want to put on the card? Like, hello, don't you think that shouldn't just be standard business? I think the brother absolutely needed to think this thing through, but more than anything, we have a troubled couple here. This husband really is lacking some trust in his wife to really insist so much that she must be having an affair. I mean, clearly she responded and said, no, I have no idea who this is, right? And he's not believing her. He's digging into it, and there's some trouble here.
I can see anxiety on his part, but at the same time, if your wife is having an affair and she gets flowers that say "thinking of you," she's probably not going to go, "Oh, these are from my husband. I should call him and thank him." Like he didn't think this through.
You pause for a moment and go, "Which person sent them?"
Like she's going to be like, "Let me think." I totally, like, if she was having an affair, she would certainly not have just immediately called her husband.
There's such a good point. I didn't even think of that because I've never been in that situation. But you're totally right that
Well, yeah,
if someone sent flowers, they wouldn't immediately thank the spouse.
Yeah, neither have
Yeah.
I.
No. I can appreciate it because it's
Like,
just a perspective I've never had to think about.
Right, but I think and I totally could see, like, I could see the husband being like, "Wait, what? You got flowers
Yeah.
from a stranger?" But less finding out this way, more like if he were to find out that she got flowers from someone. Oh, like,
Right.
I could see him being like, "Who sent you flowers?" But I mean, his behavior as described in here,
Oh, problematic.
it's really problematic because he jumped from point A to point like Q squared, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and the immediate firing off of an accusation, the like demanding that I mean, all of that, like there are lots of possibilities for where the flowers came from, one of which is she's having an affair.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if she's not going to call him and thank him. Like he was not thinking here, and then he acted way out of line. I don't like branding like the third party characters and some of these to be assholes, but this guy, like he was being an asshole.
Yeah.
By the way he's
Obviously.
described, his behavior was really, really awful.
Absolutely.
And unfortunate. And this is a sad situation. I have to wonder I mean, I don't know that anything else is going on. I want to make the assumptions anything else going on for him and what their relationship is like, but this is problematic. It's a real warning sign
of something, and we don't know what that is.
Right.
But
Right.
I do suspect it is indicative of some struggles in their relationship, just struggles to communicate. I would like to think that if my husband were to receive flowers at his workplace and called me to say, "Hey, thanks for the flowers," and I said I didn't send them, that our next discussion would be, "I wonder who sent them."
Exactly. I could totally see that
where
conversation.
Would those have come from? Like,
I
who
could
would
totally
know?
see that, especially again, if the conversation starts with, "Hey, honey, thanks so much for the flowers." Like, my immediate assumption is not going to be like, "You're having an affair." It's going to be like, "Well, I didn't send you flowers. Who the hell sent you flowers? I don't know who sent you flowers."
Right.
Like, it's going to be like confusion and like
Shared detective work.
Yeah, I love that phrase, shared detective work. If I got random flowers and I called my wife and said, "Thanks so much for flowers," and she was like, "I didn't send you flowers. Who did?" I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking know. We would sit down and try to figure out where it came from, and we would be like puzzled and curious, like, am I a stalker? Is there like a it's not like, I mean, but like again, you don't call if you're having an affair. I just don't imagine you calling your spouse to thank them. Like that immediately like takes away the possibility, unless you're super gaslighty on this one, which just doesn't make sense either. Like the only thing that makes sense is someone else in the person's life. That's not a fair partner.
I'm troubled obviously by this third character or third party character, the husband.
Yeah.
I'm a little troubled by the brother, and I'm trying to turn over in my brain, why in the world wouldn't you put your name on it? And then it occurred to me, texting. How, everyone's got that maybe older person in their life that texts you and says,
Right.
"I hope you're having a good day. Love, Grandpa," or whatever, and they sign it, because that's what we did back in the day of letter writing and emails and things like that. But we've come to this place where we drop that. And I think, Dan, if I texted you and said, "I hope you're having a safe trip," we've alluded to your trip recently, Gayle, you'd go, "Well, that's weird," right? Like, I wonder if this guy calls up the florist, doesn't think to put his name on it, because we don't see things like that anymore. Otherwise it's a little bizarre. Like, why wouldn't you just say, "Love, Brian," like.
I think the brother just went, "I'll send her this, and getting these anonymous flowers will be cool."
No, he didn't have the intention. He or at least in the last part of it, I don't think, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, if he didn't have the intention, he said he just didn't think about it. Like, it didn't occur to him.
Yeah, and this was definitely a point of contention on the internet. Lots of people were peppering him like, "You knew you did this intentionally," or whatever. And he was like, "No, like really, I was doing it over the phone. They asked what kind of card I wanted. I said, I don't know, what are the options? They said, thinking of you." And he said, "Fine." Like that was the level of thought. So.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think it didn't occur to him to put his name on it, and the floral shop should have prompted that. Third party character, maybe fourth party character here.
So
the floral shop should have said, "And what would you like the signature to be?"
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm taking him out of the doghouse then for that. So I thought maybe he thought this would be a cute and clever thing to do, to send this flowers to his sister and like have her not know that it was from him, and like
I think that's that's what the headline pulled for, and so
Yeah.
it got a little clickbaity that way, but I don't
Yeah.
think that that was his intention. I think it was just the outcome, and the outcome is problematic, and I would love for him to call up his brother-in-law and say, dude, I am really sorry. And we're close. I talked to her. She just
Mhm.
sounded so down in the dumps. I thought I'd do something nice. I'm sorry that this, resulted in such a hard discussion for the two of you. My deepest apologies. Like, I'd like to see him own that up both, or own up to it, both for his sister and his brother-in-law.
Right, right. I'm totally with you on that. And this is such an unfortunate situation.
Yeah,
That I, the bottom line is that like this is such a rom-com setup.
it is. Yep.
Such and again, how do you spoil all rom-coms with a good conversation 5 minutes in?
Right.
And nobody had that good, like the husband here had the opportunity to do exactly what we'd like to think we would all do, which is say, I didn't send those. Who do you think did?
Yeah.
I don't know, beats the shit out of me. Well, what? Let's figure it out, because like if it's from the wrong person, it's really kind of creepy. Like this might activate my like, oh my gosh, is someone stalking my wife? Is someone like have a thing
Yeah.
like this would be more likely to activate my protectiveness, than my, I don't know. It just, this one.
And there would be a piece of me that would wonder, is there another person in my workplace that should have received it? Did I get it from the wrong person without a name on it? Like, I would start to
Yeah.
wonder, is it delivered correctly? Now, with my name and my more unique spelling, that is
Right.
an unlikely event. But,
Yes.
if you got I don't know, a Julie or a Jennifer, like maybe.
That is true. I'm like missed opportunities here for the best way to handle this, but man, like I'm concerned about this husband a lot. I am really concerned about
Yes.
this husband a
It's
lot.
okay to be
Because
angry
he
and
made the
upset.
accusation, and then
Mhm.
it sounds like he like stuck to his guns.
Well, it's okay to be angry and upset, but it matters what you do with that emotion and how you handle it, how you express it. And he did it in the wrong way. He let
Yeah,
this
big time.
leak, as it were, all over the florist and became
Yeah.
demanding. And he really foisted his pain and discomfort on kind of a neutral third party.
Hmm.
And from a business perspective, they can't tell him. He needed to have accepted their no. I'm sorry, sir. We cannot disclose that information. However, if you like, we can call the party and ask them to reveal themselves if that,
Yeah.
but we can't demand it. And
I,
that should have been the sum total of that conversation.
And when it did come back to like, why are they still arguing now? Because when it came back to it was my brother, at that point, like husband's only action is to completely and entirely, like I just am I'm imagining like John Cleese from A Fish Called Wanda back in the 80s, like hanging upside down. I apologize unreservedly. Like this, he should be like
Yeah.
just prostrating on the floor with the deepest of apologies and an action plan for how to resolve this really difficult behavior. Like there shouldn't be fighting going on between the two of them. It should be like her being angry at him and him like trying to figure out how to. I mean, he can't unring the bell, but he's done something pretty awful here.
No, I would like to see him apologize to the floral shop as well. Likely he got the
Yeah.
same person again and again.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
really,
yeah.
really awful to them. And ideally he's calling them up and saying, gosh, I'm really sorry for my behavior. I was really upset, and that wasn't an excuse, but
Yeah.
I certainly behaved in a way that I'm not
My
proud of.
behavior was completely and entirely out of line. Is the, I mean, is his only path here,
Yeah.
and figuring out for himself why it is he got to where he did, so he avoids ever having that happen again.
Agreed.
Because if his relationship with his wife, if he's managed just to repair the relationship, he can't ever do this again. If he doesn't repair this relationship, he doesn't want to do this with some future partner.
Agreed. Yeah.
So yeah, no.
Michael, are there comments that we need to hear or things that we've missed so far in this conversation?
No, you got most of the big ones. I mean, I'll throw a couple things out that are kind of interesting. One was, I mean, the internet does its thing, right? Which is like super sleuthiness. They're like questioning the intentions, and so the biggest thread in this is you knew exactly what you were doing. Like you said in your title, sending anonymous flowers. That suggests that's your intent. Now you're backpedaling and saying, no, that's not really what you meant to do. You also point out the very first line of his thing is, I've always been very close with my sister. We talk regularly. How the fuck do you not know there are problems in a relationship? Like
yeah,
you
don't.
have
We don't.
to know flowers
I'm gonna
coming
just
are going to cause a problem.
people don't always share the unpleasantness in their relationship with others, even their siblings sometimes. But yeah, I get that. I get that. That he should
Yeah.
have, and I totally agree. Like he said, sending anonymous flowers, like that does sound like there was intent behind it. That he's now trying to like, no, I didn't mean to. I'm not
And
letting him totally off the hook for that one.
sure. And, I do think we are so limited in these scenarios because we really are trying to take literally what OP
Hmm.
gives us. But there
Right.
is, there is that biased effect when we write about ourselves and our actions that we tend to paint ourselves in a better light. And so it is entirely possible that we are missing some significant information from OP here, including,
Hmm.
maybe non-nefarious intent. I just wanted to put a smile on her face and she gets
Oh,
these anonymous flowers. And in my head, it played through beautifully. And then in reality, like, woof, did we
right. I don't.
like,
We've talked before about mens rea, this idea of the guilty
mhm.
mind. In order to have
Yeah.
committed a certain crimes, you have to have had some intent. He
Mhm.
clearly didn't intend to cause problems, so I can't call him an asshole. I think that being an asshole requires some intent.
Yeah.
So I'm not willing to call him an asshole, but it doesn't
Is he
sound like
dickish? Is he
he didn't
madly
think
dickish?
he certainly didn't think he didn't think this shit through.
Yeah. I think that
Like
makes
he's sending his
him
married sister
lucky.
anonymous flowers saying thinking of you.
Yeah.
Like that's the sort of thing like I think about like that's the sort of setup for like, oh, I'm gonna cause problems in their relationship. Now clearly that's not what he did, but if you wanted to cause problems in someone's relationship, what a great way to do it.
For sure.
Like send them anonymous
I think he
flowers thinking of
naively
you.
thought everyone likes to get flowers and she'll just glow like in some sort of rom-com and float 10 feet off the floor because
Sure.
he already recognizes that she's depressed. And I think his sole aim was to cheer her up, forgetting all of the other factors that were actually going to do just the opposite.
Right, right. And that was just
Yeah.
oh, and if he'd said, as you said, if he'd said love Brian,
Right. Easy.
or,
you
or
know,
even or even hey sis, thinking of you,
Fair. Right.
like that would have been so simple.
Right.
Right, right. I
Easy.
just like he didn't think the shit through. I mean, the flower shop.
They do
Want
this
to
for
put
a
a signature
living.
on it?
They do this for a living. They
They-
know better. You trust
yeah.
your professionals to walk you through the pieces of a transaction that you need. I'm not entirely letting them off.
Now I appreciate their refusal to disclose who the person is. I'm sure this sort of thing happens. I'm sure this is something that's discussed. Like I didn't think about this until just now because I belong to several Facebook groups for therapists. I'm sure there's like florist Facebook groups where they discuss like this sort of thing happening. Like, had it happen again? Angry husband called up asking who sent the flowers, and I had to tell him no, and then he yelled at me. Like, I'm sure that shit happens. Like,
Right.
so they have a policy, and good on them for like, nope, we don't, nope, our work at transactions done. We
Mhm.
but yeah, I because originally I was going to give him a total pass, and yeah, it would have been a good thing to say, hey, do you want to sign this?
So I'll say that the internet gave two answers. One is like you're the asshole, and those were the people who went through and were like, here are the clues that you did this intentionally. You should have known better. And then
Right.
the other one was everyone sucks here except for the sister. And in those
Right.
cases, it was you're 37, you're sending cards to a married woman, you know better. She's your sister, blah blah blah. You're the asshole for that. The flower ship should have asked. You should have been more clear and thoughtful. The brother-in-law definitely should have chilled the fuck out and asked questions instead of jumping to conclusions.
Yeah.
Like everybody sucks except for the sister in that case.
I don't like
and
that
so
answer.
those were like the two kind of responses were those.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The brother did post an update, which was which is it turns out their marriage has been on the decline for a while, and now her depression is largely the result of that. My sister is now getting divorced. I feel like they're headed in that direction, but my actions probably sped things up. I think. And in talking with my sister, she explained he was always verbally abusive, explosive temper, never hit her, blah, blah. They're getting divorced now. I'll be sure to support her going forward and want to thank you all for your support and concern. So,
But
anyway.
he didn't end this marriage because a good marriage isn't going to get ended because of a misunderstanding like this. This may have shined a spotlight on the problems of the marriage. And quite frankly, if this guy, as we correctly surmised, Gail and I, if this guy's been this way, like this is not an isolated incident. If this guy's been this way, if he's been verbally abusive to her, if he's been really really terrible and accusatory and all the things, the hastening of the end of this relationship.
One other thing that I was delighted to see is you both brought this up too, was in a healthy relationship, though the couple would sleuth it out and go, oh my gosh, what an interesting mystery. This could have been somebody else's flowers, or who did this come from? And they would have worked together to kind of figure that out. Thank you both for another riveting debate and a glimpse into the collective conscience of the internet forums. Remember, morality is often shades of gray and not just black or white.
Life is no bed of roses.
No. And this is another one of those opportunities for us to be like, damn, instead of having a rom-com, have a really good conversation where you're open to hearing what your partner has to say. But this isn't one of those situations that, like, again, this problem isn't related to this problem. This problem is a long-standing issue with this couple. So
yeah. Well, please follow and share Veritas Views on any of the podcast platforms with your neighbors and friends. And as always, stick around through the credits for a bonus conversation about something. See you on the other side of the credits.
You can follow Dr. Dan Kessler at Dr. Dan Kessler and Dr. Gayle MacBride at Dr. G. MacBride. Oh, and you can find them both at veritaspp.com. Credits. Tickling the Ivories, Matthew Reddington. Art, production, and design, bringing this show together with flair and finesse, Michelle Love. Recording and editing, turning chaos into something worth sharing, Michael McBride. Intro, outro, I'm Kelly Buttrick, a VO talent who just happens to be Dr. McBride's cousin. Cats, CJ, Linus, Sadie, and Griffin. Hosting by whomever lost the coin flip. Interruptions by all their children. The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Listening to this podcast does not constitute a therapist-client relationship. If you believe you may be experiencing a mental health issue, please seek the assistance of a qualified mental health professional. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, you can call or text 988 from anywhere in the U.S. to be connected to Crisis Mental Health Services.
Thanks for listening. As promised, here's that bonus conversation.
Gayle, it's the new year, and I understand that you have a good things tradition that you begin each new year like a jar.
Yeah, it sits on our dining room table. It's just a plain old mason jar. Now that I think about it, I probably need to update it. I wrote good things and I put the year on it and ask everyone to contribute little scraps of paper with the date and something good that happened that day. Just something that maybe made your day a little bit better or great or whatever it is. And we fold it up and we put it inside, and we do this all year long. And then on New Year's Day, we sit down as a family, dump the jar out, divvy up the items, and just read them to each other. It's kind of cool to see, kind of what comes out of that. Sometimes you have a hard time reading somebody else's handwriting and they go, oh, give me that. And then they remember. But sometimes it's really cool because you see the same thing come up 3 or 4 times. And it means that each of us sort of wrote our own little take on something good that happened. And one of the coolest things that we've done this now, I don't know, was this the 4th year maybe in a row?
I think so.
We've kept a running tally, we being my ever curious husband and host here, has kept a running tally of how many slips of paper made it into the jar. And I'm pleased to say every year there have been more than the year before. We're like stuffing that jar at the end of the year, just trying to get the piece of paper to fit in.
Wonderful. But what I really like, I like that focus on positivity within the thing, and that doesn't mean we ignore negatives, but it means that we recognize that we have to intentionally look for the positive sometimes. Talk about that Gottman 5-to-1 ratio. It takes 5 positives to overcome every 1 negative. So what a great opportunity to stuff that jar full of potentially, I assume, hundreds of positives. What was the count this year?
What was the count, Michael?
142.
142.
Great.
Yeah, and I just think that humans are inherently problem solvers, right? We've kind of talked about this in this episode. And in order to problem solve, we need to find problems. So sometimes that's what our brain goes to, and that does really kind of bring the negative. And so being intentional about the good, the positive, reminds us that that's out there too, and it is kind of this balance. And so you're right, it's not a naive focus on the good, but it is an intentional moment of reminding yourself that there's a lot of good out there.
Right. I really like that a lot.
Yeah.
And I'll add, often the new year is a time where everyone sits back and thinks what am I going to do differently this year? How am I going to change myself? And by reading through what we did the previous year, sometimes we're like, oh, we should do that again. That was really interesting.
Yeah.
Not do something different, but repeat something that we would have forgotten maybe otherwise. And just kind of reflect on those moments. So, but thanks everyone. Thanks for listening, and tune in again next week for a whole nother Am I the Asshole debate.
And leave us a comment if you start your own good things savings jar. Let us know how that's going for you. I'd love to hear other people and how they handle something like that.
Absolutely.
We love hearing from you, so please review us on Apple, Spotify, or, well, wherever you're listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please review, like, and follow. Also, give it a share. This helps us reach more listeners.